viewers. So until then, we're just killing time.
All right, dude. All right. But let me ask you this, because with this fire that I've seen, that you've been releasing probably more videos than I've ever seen you do. It's like you took the whatever it was off that was holding you back and just started charging forward. What was it? What was the thing that lit the fire under you to make you just be as engaged as you're being right now?
It was a combination of things. One was I had to start eating healthier and exercise more. That did a lot. But I also had some outside help. JS did the rite of deification for me. L did the juggernaut ritual over me. And a third friend of mine did a ritual that basically helped me. It was specifically targeted at my work ethic by my request. Um, it's kind of difficult to be your own boss, right?
Oh yeah.
A lot of people do not last well
Yeah.
after their own devices like that. My failing was off days. So a lot of my off days weren't really, well, off days. They were days where I was sitting around telling myself I'm going to get back to work and then failing to do so. I realized that I had to actually relax on my off days. Otherwise, I'll mentally burn myself out. But yeah, that combination of rituals and those, lifestyle changes helped me get right back on track.
That's actually an awesome insight there. And that's with work, but also with your magic is hit it with everything you've got. But then when you're taking a break, take an actual break. And I'll do that with magic. I'll do that with I don't like taking more than a couple days off of my my daily spiritual routine. But sometimes I'll do that. Like, dude, I just got to take, and I'll take a full 2-3 days, and it feels. It's like a reset when you actually are able to get and a lot of times, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of times I've got to change my environment to make that happen. Go camping or go hang out with a friend, do something that I'm outside, because I work at home and I think you do too. And so so with that, it's like my home is also my office. My kitchen counter is where I do my paperwork. So getting out of the house can be really helpful.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I recently made axe throwing like an actual hobby, and that's also been pretty great.
Yeah, oh, dude, yeah, dude. I think we were all blown away just seeing what you're doing with those axes. You're just, wow, what the two-handed one really got me. Blah blah. I'm all, what the hell, dude? But yeah, it looks like we got a ton of people piling in the chat already. So hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. Josu Munoz, always good to see you, brother. Jared, hello. Alexis, hello, Alexis. Outlaw Signal. I'm just going to roll through the chat if you don't mind. Outlaw Signal. Vuliov, Roblox. Great having you here. Hey, Cough Jesus and Co-Wedding. Okay. Hey. Moontan, always good to see you, Moontan. What's up, Ignis? What's up, Ignis? Ignis says I also play bass, dude. I'm learning some Sisters of Mercy, and wow, what's his name? Andrew, the main guy, Sisters of Mercy, such an amazing musician. Fluoxetine Queen, love the name. Hello, Fluoxetine Queen. Black Therion, hello. Sean, great having you here, Sean. Soul Therapy, hey, damn, ton of people in the chat. What's up, everybody? HP says, put the fucking lotion in the basket. Okay, man, okay. Anthony, what's up? Dude, Wild Rose, hello, Wild Rose. Lucas says, what's up? Lucas says, oh my God, I found 2 legends live today. Dude, and it's an honor for me. Thank you for having me on your show. It really truly is an honor to be able to talk to you. And yeah.
It's an honor to have you. So, y'all recently released a book called Noctulius.
Yes.
I believe this is the 4th book that ND Blackwood has released under your company.
That's right. Yeah, he just goes deeper with each one. With his first one was Draga Droten, and it was a little kind of slimmer vampiric grimoire. And with that, I was like, dude, that's it. He revealed all the secrets, and then he goes up with another book. And with this one, dude, he goes so deep into it where he gets into a lot of the actual mechanics of energy transfer, how to relax your system and get your system receptive to the energy that's coming into you, how to work with meridians, and then how to work with the darkest of all the dark gods, Noctulius. He really hit it out of the park with this book for sure.
Yeah, I was really glad to see him trace back the origins of Noctulius because a lot of the Nikala dark gods that the O9A venerates do not at all originate from the O9A. Dovkina, that's just another version of the name Domkina, Marduk's mom in Sumerian paganism. But Noctulius, I could never trace back on my own. He found record of Noctulius being recorded in 1719 by Bernard de Montfaucon.
Mm.
What really surprised me was his deduction that Noctulius originated as a human practitioner.
That's one of the things that really blows my mind, because he does this with all of them. I mean, he goes into every one of these dark gods that he explores, and and exposes how they're a human, and they began as a human. And so with that, his concept is that through vampirism, indeed, the human can become an immortal god, much like these gods. I
Yeah.
don't know if he's done that. I'd have to dig a bit deeper and maybe even ask him personally if he's seen that same thing with the Egyptian deities. Like, for instance, Isis and Horus and Osiris are all very vampiric entities, and I wonder, because I know that there are theories that all well let's talk about this, because there are theories that the gods that we now worship are the souls of deceased sorcerers or powerful people from the previous civilization. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Um, I I don't think most deities originated as human practitioners, but I could technically be wrong. I especially don't know that much about Egyptian magic. I dabble in it and I can get results, but it's not my strong suit at all. I do believe that the Greek goddess Selene, the Titan of moonlight, I'm pretty sure she started as a human. Um, I've heard that Asmodeus did too. There was one book, I can't remember the name of it, that said he originated as a human practitioner. Obviously, Cain and his wife Lulua became basically infernal deities in the afterlife. In Mejurian magic, you see Zazazel, the lord of their underworld plane. He was said to originate as human. But Noctulius clearly ascended far beyond most undead gods, as we call them.
For sure. I mean, becoming oh man, it's becoming the darkness itself. The form that actually stands out to me the most with Noctulius, that I can identify the most with it, is Lovecraft's idea of the black man. The It's Nyarlathotep that emerges forth. It is the darkness and the chaos that's able to form a body and come and negotiate with us. Very same thing as in ancient Canaanite. I think that they had Yam Nahar. The Yam Nahar was the serpent of the deep, and every now and again it would form a body of a man, Judge Nahar, that would walk upon the earth and come and negotiate with people, or at least tell people what his demands were. So
Hell yeah. I Part of my gnosis is that Noctulius is really strongly connected to the void. Um, weren't you the one who figured out that a Maimon was like a counterpart of Lucifer?
yeah. Where with all of the light that Lucifer shines, the dark side of that is the darkness of a Maimon's black eye. Yeah, yeah, he's associated a lot with the black sun, and it is like the flip side of the coin of Lucifer.
Yeah, I think Noctulius is a counterpart of Lucifer in a similar way.
How do you mean?
Um, well, Noctulius is very, they just seem very connected. They seem to be avatars of the same higher force. Something called Resolva, which is comparable to Satolas.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, and that's the thing when we talk about like Lucifer and Satan, and Moloch might be up there as well. Some of the big ones that um everybody who hears those names is going to think about a different entity entirely. These have become, and maybe not everybody, but for sure, if a Christian hears those names, they're going to come up with completely different assumptions about those beings. And I think all of those different forms do exist. And even when we're dealing with Lucifer, with Bill Duvendak and Asenath Mason wrote a book together, Awakening Lucifer, that goes through history, and it basically identifies Lucifer all over the place in a bunch of different systems.
Mm.
And with that, it is like, okay, it's like we're identifying like Luciferian traits. We can do the same thing with Satan the adversary, and we can see like, oh, this is an adversarial spirit. I can see Satan very strongly in Shiva, very strongly in Shiva, but at the same time,
Mm.
it's like, don't make the mistake of calling Shiva Satan. He does not like that.
Yeah.
They're they are different, and that is the thing. They are all different entities in different forms. And that brings me to another question I was going to ask you. Is that one of the themes that I've noticed in your recent work is that you've been glorifying specific spirits, specific entities that you've worked with, and I don't know if they're telling you to do this, and they're like, hey, speak our names, because they do say that a lot. But I've just noticed that like a lot of your work is, it's like you're telling people about sometimes very personally channel things, spirits that you've that have struck you in a very personal way. And when I hear it, I'm like, dude, you could just keep this to yourself, but you don't. Like, you want to share it with the world. And most magicians do just keep it to themselves, but you've got like an entire grimoire of spirits that you just put out on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, most recently I was talking about Chabajath or Azarate. So he's the meta god composed of the 11 Clefothic lords. Generally speaking, the spirits don't say, hey, make a video on me, but there's some reason believe that they some reason to believe that they might be influencing my content like subconsciously. Because I'll often get comments like, I was just wondering about this and you released a video on it all of a sudden, you know? With
Yeah.
Java Joth, he was technically the second meta god I encountered. The first one was the Goetic meta god Pomhadox. Um,
What was the name you were given when you were here for the boot camp? You were saying it was as not Azarate, but that's one that you said. Go the Goeticon? Was it
Goeticon,
Goeticon?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and when you were telling me about it here, I was like, it wasn't clicking. But then when I saw your video from 2 days ago, where you were talking about Pomhadox and Azarate, and I was like, oh, this is basically the same thing as Satalos, because like I've had a hard time. I've had a hard time even myself understanding what Satalos was until I heard you breaking it down, and I was like, oh, okay, no, that does make sense. It is because it's beyond just an identity. It's like a name and enough of an identity that we can lock onto, but it's more of the force behind all identity.
Yeah. Um, Working with the Goeticon or Pomhadox is a bit different from working with Goetic demons. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with, calling Belial to curse someone, right?
Mhm.
But if you call the Goeticon to curse someone, he'll do it, but you'll get punished for it, unless you're doing it as an act of immediate self-defense. Like, its primary purpose in magic is protection.
Mm.
Um, so it's a really bad idea to call on the Goeticon for curse work, whereas a lot of Goetic demons on their own individually would be great spirits to call on for it.
Well, that's an interesting thing. As I'm kind of intuitively feeling behind what you're saying, that there's a balance, and if you disrupt the balance is going to be restored, maybe not in your favor. And so if the balance is disrupted, like you're being attacked, that's when the Zoeshikon can come into your favor to restore the balance. Because that's kind of what I'm seeing is like there's within each of the spheres, they're all bound together by this force. This is the force, and the thing that binds them is what we're talking about now. And so it is a balancing, binding force. What's up, Serafina? Love of my life.
Um, s- I saw Ignis Persephorans had a question for you. He said, do
Oh,
you know how to get a spirit to empower a weapon? You've heard Amdusius can do this, and he just got a sick ass obsidian push dagger made from the Paiute tribe.
Oh wow! You know what? Yeah, yes, I do. But real quick, Zarafina and I were out driving out in the middle of nowhere in Utah, and we come across this little rock shop. So we go in there, and she goes, "You know what? The Navajo tribe just left, and they left us a bunch of jewelry and obsidian weapons. And they had an obsidian dagger there that I was like, oh, that looks so cool." But in my Western white guy mind, I was like, dude, I'll just find one online for cheaper. And so I go online. Impossible. It is impossible to find these kinds of the kind of quality that you can only find from the Paiutes or the Navajo that are making it themselves. And they'll just they literally will just travel around, drop their wares off at different places, and disappear. I've gone back to that shop and I'm like, that was sold, obviously. They're like, and I'm like, yeah, give me another one. They're like, next time the Navajos come through, if they whatever they give us, they give us. And I'm like, oh dang. So that's cool that Ignis see that you snagged that up. That's awesome that you were able to get that. And then how to empower it? Well, the ceremonial magic way that's pretty easy to do, I think, is to set the weapon up inside of the triangle of manifestation, and then evoke that spirit into the triangle. Let its essence infuse into that, and you can even ask the spirit to lay its own blessing upon that, or even to feel the thing, almost like a lamp, like ask it for the weapon to be a lamp. But also, what do you want? What's your intention? That's the biggest thing that all of your magic is going to come back to. What is your intention? And so make sure you infuse that. I've got a blade on a katana on my wall that's infused with vampiric power, and it does. All I have to do is draw it out and hold it there, and it just sucks the life out of everything around me, and just channels as much of it as I need into myself, and I can push the rest of it into ritual. And that's the specific thing I charged that. I charged it over a month of just putting that intention into it, infusing it with that, taking it out at night only, not letting daylight touch the blade for a month while it charged. Find out for yourself what it needs. And I would even sit there. I would even make a little altar or a shrine for that weapon just for the time that you're charging it, and have it on display there, and go kneel before it and commune with it. It's already alive. It already has a spirit inside of it. And so see if that spirit can start to talk to you about what it needs. For mine, it needed blood. It needed blood on the blade, and so I got some extra marks on my arm that were the offering for that. And so and I can't wash it. I can never wash it with water. That's one thing. The water is gonna take the, and that's not for every magical tool, but for that one for sure, I'm not allowed to wash it with water, so I can only wash it with oil, or oil is really what I'll use. And so yeah, that's my first thing. But the one thing is when people will complain a lot about they did the ritual and they didn't feel anything. Well, that's on you. Like, make yourself feel the thing. Make yourself feel the thing, and then channel that feeling into it. So if you want that weapon to be a tool of rage, make yourself feel rage, and then pass that rage out of your hands into the tool. Protection, similarly, etc. But VK, what insights do you have on how to do this?
On how to enchant a weapon, what I would usually do is just draw out a sigil of a spirit who I feel like would be good for enchanting weapons, put the weapon on the sigil, light a couple candles, burn some incense as an offering to whichever entity I'm calling on, and ask them to bless it either to strengthen certain types of spells, or if it's something I would want to use in self-defense, I could bless it in a way that ensures success in those situations. Um, I find that different, demons have different weapons that they're historically related to. For daggers, I don't know of any demons who specialize in daggers, but if it was a gun, Moloch and Magat would be perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, no, that's and then Julian or Julia Roblox says, can one do money spells by obtaining moderate or low amounts without pursuing high money magic? So can you just do money magic for a little bit of money? Actually, yeah. It's actually it's it's easier to do to just get a couple $100 or a couple thousand. For me, I've found $20,000 is within manifesting range. When I get beyond that, 30 to 50,000 in one sitting is hard for me. And so and so you've got to find find yourself one. And that's it's an interesting question, because it's like maybe you don't really want the money, or maybe just from time to time, and that's totally fine.
Mm.
In fact, I kind of think that's better. I don't I'll use magic for every single release I do to make sure that it's hitting all the eyeballs that need to see my promos will see it, etc. But other than that, my day-to-day finances and my day-to-day life, I just try to live it. I don't do tarot readings for myself, for instance, because I don't want to always see the future. I just want to live life and get through the struggles and try to do my best. And I try to do that with magic. I don't turn to magic for everything. And I kind of have to push myself sometimes. I'll let myself suffer a lot more than I need to before I'm finally like, you know what? Why don't I just cast a spell and solve this problem? So
Yeah. I for a long time I wasn't casting money spells basically at all. I was just getting money the normal way. And when I finally, caved and did some shit, it wound up being pretty helpful. What I did was I already like the business I have. I just wanted to improve it. So I did one ritual to Barkon, the uh, Zhen King of Mercury. He's good at breathing life into pre-existent financial endeavors. And Sabnock, I did a separate working with him for much the same purpose. Um, with Sabnock, he's good at specifically improving and expanding a pre-existing business rather than starting a new one. For starting a new one, I think Mephistopheles and Mammon are better for that, in my personal experience.
Sabnock's name has been coming up a lot in my Odyssey live chat. People are mentioning him in my TikTok live chats every week. People are mentioning him. And it seems like, and I'll notice this with spirits, that it seems like their presence will come in a wave, and a lot of people will become aware of them all at once, and then it kind of sometimes dwindles, or sometimes it carries on. Like Belial, saw that with Belial for sure. His wave happened a few times for sure.
So Ignis has a good question for you. He says, is it easier to ask for the material thing or experience you want rather than simply asking for money itself? He plans on doing a spell so he can afford to hike on the Appalachian Trail next year.
Yeah, spectacular question, because that is getting at the underlying mechanics of all of this. So 100%, you're the focus on the experience or the object that you want, not the money, because money. First off, money is not really real. Like, the value of it's changing constantly. It's not really a real thing that. Okay, so let me put it this way. The carrot that you always want to dangle in front of yourself, it needs to be the same kind of thing that would attract an animal. And so an animal is not going to be attracted by money. You can't, my cat doesn't. I can put $1 million in front of it; it doesn't care about it. But it wants the experience. It wants to get pet. It wants the food. And so what you need to do with all of your magic is dangle something in front of yourself that you actually do want, that you have that animalistic desire for. And so yeah, the hike. I would see yourself on the hike. I would probably break it into parts. If this were me doing the ritual, I'm gazing at the sigil or whatever. I would first imagine myself having more money than I expected, and so I would imagine this as I'm looking in my bank account, ready to make the purchase of the whatever I needed, and I look at my bank account and I'm surprised. I don't even have to know the number. I just I'm surprised by how much money is in my account. I have more than enough than I need. Wow. And so that's the first visualization I'll do. The second is what's the biggest purchase that's gonna require? Is it taking time off of work, or is there actually something you need to buy? Actually see yourself making that purchase or taking that time off and feeling good about it. Create the scenario that you want to happen. And then the last thing, I would do it in three parts. The last thing would be you're finally at the top, you're hiking the trail and you feel great, you are successful. And I would actually play those scenes out as clearly and crisply as you can while you're gazing at the sigil or the candle. And I would lock those in also. I would lock those in as visualizations that you can return to. So if you start getting discouraged, if things start not going your way all of a sudden, just get back into that magical state with those exact visualizations and make yourself feel at peace and certain. Certainty and peace are the combination that makes your magic work. So that's my thoughts on that for sure. But yeah, I don't. I have a really. I think most of us have a bad relationship with money. Like we just don't like money. I remember getting my first paycheck at a fast food place, and it felt gross. I was like, I don't know. Like I'm exchanging my time and my soul for this. What the hell? And so I think most of us just have a natural negative association with money. So bypass the money. Visualize the thing that you want that you want to spend that money on. And that's also one of the things I'll have a lot of people come to me and they're like, my whole life is, terrible and I need to change everything. I'm like, all right, well, we need to start somewhere. So what do you need? What's the first changes you need to make in your life? And they're like, well, if I can win the lottery and have $1 million, I'm like, well, that's bypassing. You're being given an opportunity to build your life the way you want to, and you're trying to bypass those opportunities. So start looking at it and go like, what do I actually want? Because most of the time when people throw out money, when they're like, I need $1 million, when you actually talk to them about it, they don't know what they would spend that $1 million on. And it's probably not very wise stuff. I know, I'll be honest with you, I have had $1 million and I've spent it all on poisons to destroy myself. So, don't worry about the $1 million. Worry about what you actually want in life.
Nice. I wanted to ask you a bit what your personal experience with Noctulius has been like. I remember reading your description of Aosoth in Evoking Eternity, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like extremely accurate and matched my own quite well. What was Noctulius like for you?
Well, it's actually funny because I talked about Aosoth because I was kind of given permission by Aosoth to speak her name. Noctulius, I was not given permission, and,
Oh,
and
okay.
so along the way, when I've talked about Aosoth, there's been the opposite thing that I've not been able to talk about of Noctulius. Once he put this book out, I was like, dude, all right, if you're gonna pull the plug, let's do this. And so yeah, so with Noctulius, I would say Aosoth appeared to me as more feminine than masculine. Although the gender is the gender gets real confusing with these entities real quick, but
Yeah.
more feminine than masculine, and really comforting. A really comforting, like feminine voice. If I had to say what Aosoth came forth as, it was a shining blue star that had a feminine voice that spoke to me through my eyes. Her voice would come through my eyes. Her light would come through my eyes. She actually taught me a lot about the power of the eyes. She's like, when you soul travel, exit through your eyes. When you're trying to influence something, cast your spell through your eyes. Um, uh, but then Noctulius was the exact opposite. Extremely dark, and very masculine, and he was almost like all the time going, you're not going far enough. Everything you're doing is not far enough. Go even further. And so he had me doing this. It was a 13-day starvation, and luckily I was already homeless because I needed to sleep in the cemetery for 13 nights, and I was already homeless. I was like, super easy for me to do this, dude. And so slept in the cemetery for 13 nights, and would call upon him. Um, I would call upon Noctulius while I was going to sleep in the cemetery, and then waking at dawn, I would call upon Aosoth. and it felt like I was pulling myself every morning out of an extremely dark black sleep. Um, One of the things Noctulius would do is rather than showing me himself, he would show me visions of um, what I just came to call the nightmarish landscapes. They're just nightmarish landscapes. And he would, it was like I would sometimes be flying over these. It's like a city that's been nuked, and there's some buildings left over, and it's maybe a couple hundred years after the bombs fell, and there's nothing left. And in this city, there are towers that are built where there's like a glowing purple light coming off of them. And I still don't know what a lot of this stuff that he was showing me means. I mean, I think it's a real place. I think he was showing me a real part of the Infernal Empire, but I don't know why. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. But it's like every day that I would go into the cemetery right after dark, and there was I'd go in after dark. I'd find my little spot, and every night there was a cop, a sheriff that would drive by, and he would shine his spotlight through the cemetery. So I kind of knew the routine. So I was always in the cemetery before he did that, in my spot, so I could hide behind the hill. He'd shine his light, and then I was free to go. And then I would do like an invocation, and I felt like more and more I was stepping through the a veil deeper into the infernal realms with it. Um, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this was also starvation was included in this, where I wasn't able to eat much, and when I say wasn't able to, he told me not to, and I was like, all right, whatever. By about the second day, I started getting really hungry, and so I tried to eat, and everything I would eat, I'd throw up. And so through the 13 days, I couldn't keep food down. I would drink water, and that was the only thing that would really stay down. Um, and it was I was becoming. Now, Julius wasn't teaching me by standing in front of me and talking to me. He was teaching me by dragging me down into a very primal state of being. I remember sometime in the 13 days when I tried to go eat something, I went to the grocery store, and because I spent the 13 days either in the cemetery or just out in the wilderness, out in the middle of the desert. And so I walk into the grocery store, and my friend's mom was working there, and she sees me, and she's like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "I barely recognize you." She's like, "You look like a wild man." And that's always stuck with me, is like there was a wildness that he was provoking in me. And I felt like I needed the balance. So I'm actually going to say, for those that want to work with Noctulius, I would balance that out with Aosoth, because I needed that balance. Otherwise, I would have gone off the deep end even further than I did go. And so that was my experience with Noctulius, was that 13 days. And ever since then, he's been like a shadow that'll pop in from time to time. But I'm going to be honest with you, I've kind of avoided him. And that was back when I was like 20, in my early 20s. I've kind of avoided him since then, because that was so intense. It was so intense, and he did take me to the edge of sanity. I kind of felt like an agori, like just a complete wild person that I didn't really. I stopped caring what anybody else in the world thought of me, even as they're looking at me and judging me. I didn't care. It was liberating for sure.
I know when I first time I summoned Noctulius, I was in my early 20s as well. And I summoned him without using the O9A's sigil or chant. I found that when you approach them in different ways, they kind of behave differently almost. Um, with Noctulius, I was still doing these regular evocations of multiple demons and just asking them to empower and transform me. So I did one ritual where I summoned a handful of Goetic spirits, probably some Glyphothic ones as well, and I just kind of added Noctulius onto that. And when he showed up, like the first thing he said was, "I've been looking forward to getting summoned by you." Like he felt really welcoming and almost had a paternal vibe. Um, one interesting technique I've found with him is what I call lunar engineering. So a lot of practitioners will want to cast spells on a waning moon or a new moon or something like that. let's say hypothetically you wanted to cast a spell on the new moon, but the moon's like 2 weeks away. Noctulius can like fill your ritual space with new moon energy, no matter which phase the moon is in.
Mm. That's really interesting because I don't know what. I'll grab something off of my shelf here if I can find. Oh, right here, right here. So I've got this bottle that it says Moon Blood,
Mhm.
and most people are like, "Oh, you got what's that empty bottle for? What's supposed to go in the empty bottle?" I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not empty. It's not empty." And I don't know. I don't know if maybe that was something that Noctulius had taught me back, in the background of my mind. But for most of my magical life, I've just kept a jar that on a new moon I'll go take it outside, just hold it up, and I can feel the dark moonlight entering it, and it is invisible moonlight. And I every now and again I'll take it out in a ritual, and I'll just waft it out of the bottle, and just a little bit I can see it like a vapor coming out of it. So yeah, yeah. But there's a Ongs ONG is saying I feel like Aosoth knows Noctulius, but Aosoth likes to scare people. Aosoth is very primal. Well, that's one of the things about these about all of these entities with the dark gods is they they're not going to come to you just because you call them. They're not going to work with you just because you know how to say their name. They have their preferences, and I don't know that you've got to open up. I feel like you've got to open up corridors and approach them sometimes slowly, and you get to know them and get to invite them a little bit. I don't know, a little bit more slowly into your life, and it can be a bit better. So the big thing is when Western magicians get their hands on these dark gods, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to summon forth Noctulius." No, you're not. No, so so I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know that there are people who have tried to reach out to these dark gods, and like it's almost like a block wall, or that they get this scary presence that tries to chase them away.
I did kind of experience that with Aosoth. My read on it was different. She did try to scare me, but don't think it was that she didn't want to work with me. I felt like it was the fear she emanates helps you evolve. I would say the same about the man with the hat and the demon named Marahim. That was my read on it. But when I got ready to do a ritual, my first summoning of her, I just heard a voice, like a female voice, as if it were coming from a human being, like a physical voice. Before I even started reciting the chants, I'm like, "Oh, you're already here? Do I still do the ritual?" And as I was doing it, I felt something on my back, like felt like a cold fingertip tracing down my back. And she seemed amused by it. It did scare me a bit, but like it scared me the same way that a good horror movie would. Like it wasn't an unpleasant fear. It was what I wanted. It felt like that. Do you mind if I refill this real quick?
No, have at it. Have at it.
Everyone liked the
Uh,
stream, by the way. I'll only take a
yeah,
second.
yeah. Mothra, what's up? Always good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Masonic Traveler, great having you here. Masonic Traveler asks, how does someone start with Majira? Majira, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. Oh, I flipped my camera. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. And you know what? There's no way, from what I understand, that you can really get into the Majira without going through the Cabal. It is an initiatory system. If somebody else knows a way, then that is what it is. But the Cabal has their secrets, and they keep their secrets well. Oh, but that's what Masonic Traveler is asking. How does somebody get started with Majurian sorcery?
Um, so you can go through the cabal, but a lot of people I know who have really close relationships with those spirits, that system, never joined it, don't plan on joining it.
Oh,
You can teach yourself. Basically, what you would do is you have to first find your tower, your specific subcategory of Measurian magic. Mine's the Tower of Crescent. Um, One of my friends specializes in maladies, which is another subcategory. Basically, what you would do is you initially start by dabbling with all of the towers or subcategories. And then eventually you'll find which subcategory or tower is the one for you. And you do that just by performing whichever Mayor's Orion spells you would find useful at the time. If your friend is sick, then do that little healing spell with Kaziel. If you have someone to curse, then by all means call up Rot and curse them. You know, um, eventually you'll find which tower you're supposed to dedicate most of your Mayor's Orion practice to. And once you've found that, the next is one or two entities will offer to be your patron or primary spirit for that tower. Um, yeah, you don't have to join the cabal at all, nor do you
Okay.
have to do the. There's a lifelong blood pact they have. You don't have to do that either. You can, but
Okay. Wow. There's that. Yeah, I didn't. I actually. So are there? Have there? Are there resources like are there books or texts? Because I know that's one of the things that the cabal was always really good at was keeping their texts secret, and so it was really hard to find out much about it unless there are pirated copies of just about everything out there that you can find. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, how can people like actually learn about what towers and what spells and whatnot?
well, Dreadwood, when he was still in charge of the cabal, he's been kicked out and he's basically left the community as a whole. Um, he used to be a really prolific author, and those books that he released, Rites in the 13 Tongues, the Black Scriptures, those were publicly available. But after he got kicked out of the cabal, he took them all off sale. So now people do just read the PDFs. That's what the current leader of the cabal would tell you to do. Um, yeah, for the books, I'd recommend starting with the Black Scriptures for a good introduction. Uh, some reason Dreadwood does feel the need to talk about the ritual purposes of necrophilia in a handful of his books. Um, I condemn this practice. Yeah, you'll have to wade through a little bit of weird shit.
I
That
mean,
was Dreadwood's fault.
look. Does he make a compelling case for it? Because like I've never. I've heard of it. Like, okay, so Lila Wendell used to talk about this stuff. She was an old school necromancer that she used to talk about laying on corpses and kissing them. And I don't know that she ever said as far as go, full on, but um, I I don't see I don't know that there's a magical. I mean, if you're going to raise, there are Tibetan rituals where you'll sit on a corpse and then you raise the spirit of that corpse. And so I can see if you're doing something specific like that. But I don't know. Does he make a compelling case for how that's a magical thing, or is he just a weirdo?
I don't think there's any such thing as a compelling case for necrophilia, but he basically recommends it for strengthening your connection with death. There was
Dude,
one.
that's the best. That's the best answer anybody could give to that question.
There is, if you read the Temple of the Blacklight's old literature, specifically Liber Azerate, it says that the archdemon Niantiel specializes in, and I quote, astral necrophilia. Needless to say, when I read that, I thought it was hilarious. They're basically referring to, going out of body and fucking a poltergeist. I thought that shit was hilarious. I told all my in-person occult friends. We had a good laugh about it. And then one night during during one of our little seances where we were talking to the spirits of Hecate, I asked, "Hey, what should our coven focus on right now?" And then one of Hecate's spirits just straight up said, "Astral necrophilia." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yep. Find a ghost and fuck it." So I I did this, and I wound up getting having a kind of a close working relationship with that particular poltergeist. At the time, I'd been really struggling to communicate clearly with spirits, but once I had fucked the poltergeist, I could hear her voice more clearly than any other spirit. Eventually, I helped her pass on, of course, but yeah,
Well, so that is. Uh, I myself do not have sexual relationships with the spirits I work with, but I know a lot of people who do and have a very, very powerful connection through that they do not only hear their voice very clearly, but their touch becomes very physical. So,
yeah, sex is an energy
well,
exchange. Yeah.
So
Um,
Masonic Traveler doesn't want to just stick with vagueness. He says, "How the hell do you fuck a spirit?"
Astral projection.
you know, um,
Sometimes people do it in dreams, but yeah.
for sure, for sure. Um, One and at that point, it does get really interesting because, like, at one point, at one point, I was doing something like that early on in my astral projection days, and I turned into a it was like a dragonfly creature in the middle of it,
Mm,
and we both like started melting together, and it was a cool dissolution of identity experience for sure.
yeah. So can I ask, what was your experience with Satolas like? What did this being? How did you discover this thing?
Well, as I was working with, all right. So first off, even before, let me see how I can frame this. Let's see. So I worked with the first four gatekeepers: Azazel, Amamon, Belial, and Abaddon. I worked with them for quite a while, and as I worked with them, I just started having this. It's like I was hearing this chanting off in the distance almost all the time. Ram Ham Satalas, Ram Ham Satalas. It's like whenever I was in contact with demons, it was like I was perceiving off in the distance that there was this chant going on. And I
Mm,
was like, what the hell? Okay, I'll just write this down and use it myself. Ram Ham Sadalat, let's go. That's kind of how a lot of my stuff works. If I hear or see something on the other side, I'm like, let's use it. But then as I started making contact with the other gatekeepers and working with each of them as the nine, that's when Satalas really started making sense. That it was uh, like each of the nine gatekeepers was a projection off of one of the facets of a black crystal, and Satalas is the black crystal in the middle that they're all emanating off of. He's not the light that they are. He's the crystal the prism that reflects all of them. Um, the a father of darkness, and that even Satan's not a big enough name because Satan is a very specific type of mask, and so it is very much like what you're talking about with Azerate or the Goeticon, etc.
interesting. So I mentioned that there are like, shit you shouldn't do with the Goetia that you can do with Goetia demons. Are there specific rules for working with Satolos?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't know because I've never used it in casting spells. The it's a worship, and so I imagine Ramham must mean something like praise be to the. It's like you Ram, if we're going to go to the Sanskrit, is the god of fire, and so it's a fiery divine greeting of Ram. Ham is often associated with the breath and with the power of the breath and the rising of Kundalini through the breath, and so maybe it's the fiery breath of Satalas. I don't know, but I've only used the phrase and I've only really interacted with him in a worshipful way. I've never ever once called him and said like, Satalas, go do this for me. Um, one of the ways that I have, uh, I'll chant it at the beginning of demonic ritual. When I start lighting up the candles, I'll chant Ram Ham Satalas at the very beginning to pull his essence here. And interestingly, when I say that, I do get a very masculine impression from him. That it is a masculine force. But yeah. So is there any way to use him? Like, I don't know that. I'm going to be honest. I don't know that these forces can be used in the same way that most spirits can, and that's why, like you're saying, if you try to use them, they're going to work against you. But you kind of have to put yourself into their harmony. You put yourself. One of the big things, especially as I was working with Satan, and he was revealing the Satalas element. The big thing is he's like trust the process. Like you got to let go and just trust us. We're in the middle of transforming you. You can't start freaking out right now. So yeah.
Yeah. I'll definitely have to approach Satalas one day. I know with Azarate or Chavajoth, if you ever wanted to put a curse on a deity, Azarate would be the thing to call on. Why you would feel the need to do that, I don't know, but Azarate's the guy for that job.
What would that actually do?
I don't know. I don't feel like trying it, man.
Yeah. Well, because here's my theory with this is that any spirit once it exists can't really be destroyed. It can be forgotten. It can be forced into dormancy. But if anybody ever speaks their name again, that spirit is going to rise again. That's why in ancient Egypt, whenever there was a pharaoh that they didn't like and they wanted to erase him, they erase their name, chisel his name off of all the shit, so nobody ever speaks his name again to make him disappear. And so, if you cursed a god, it could weaken that god, but I don't know that it could destroy it. And then if it's still a god that's still being worshipped by people, their worship is just going to restore that god. I don't know.
Yeah, killing a deity and keeping it dead are two very different things, and both sound extremely difficult. I'm not trying that shit.
Killing a deity and keeping it dead are two extremely different things. This is V. Jahana. That's awesome. Franklin says, I've been making war water with water a fish was rotting in, rusty nails, a vomited rancid wine, graveyard dirt, urine, and cinnamon. Been leaving it out in the moonlight on Tuesday nights for the last few weeks. That's awesome, man. That's sick. Yeah. I've got a jar up there, a big jar that I'll just pour. I'm not making it for any specific occasion. Just whenever there's anything really gross and I can feel like the gross energy from it, I pour it in there rather than throwing it away. So yeah.
Tony Baloney asked if we have any memorable psychic warfare experiences.
Whew. Well, the first I'll tell you about the first one was this kid Trent in my algebra class in in my junior year of high school. This is my very first time I've ever even known that this was a thing. But I start being more open about to telling people that I'm practicing witchcraft, and studying the occult and whatever. And he goes, "Hey," and he's like next to me. He's like, "Hey, you got to keep it down about that." And I was like, "I don't got to keep shit down about anything. I'll say whatever the hell I want." And he's all, "No, you don't understand. I'm a Wiccan, and you're gonna make a bad name for all of us." Well, I'm like, "Well, you're gonna have to fucking deal with it and step it up, buddy." And and he's all, "No, I'm just telling you." He goes, "I'm just gonna give you this warning." I'm like, "Your warning kind of sounds like a threat. What are you saying?" He's like, "I'm just saying." So I was like, "All right, whatever." So that night, I'm at home. I'm sitting in my bedroom. I'm watching. Remember very clearly, I'm watching Highlander. Duncan MacLeod is about to go take the head off of some immortal, and I could feel a darkness start to develop in my closet, and it was like, and I could even see it out of the corner of my eye, like the shadow of my closet started growing and taking over the whole corner of the room. And I turned, and I could feel it in my psychic eye. I could see like a blobby mass of something, and I knew that it was there to destroy me. And somehow I just reached my right hand out, just did like Neo from the Matrix, before the Matrix is even a movie though. Reached my hand out, I commanded it. I don't remember what words I said, but I commanded it to reveal who had sent it. And as soon as I did that, I had Trent's face flash into my mind. And I was like, okay. And so I commanded the thing to go back to him and to send. I did a threefold curse at that point. I said, just return whatever his intentions were for me, return it to him threefold. So that was on a Friday night. Monday I go back to school and he is looking rough. His hair's all messed up, his clothes are all dirty, and I'm like, what the hell? And he's all, dude, I've been homeless I've been homeless all weekend. I was like, what? He's all, my mom kicked me out of the house. She found all my magic books and this and that, the other, and da 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 da. And I'm like, well, let me just ask you this, Trent. Did you fucking try to curse me? And he's why? He just turns white. Why would you ask that? I'm like, because I know you did, and I sent it right back on you, motherfucker. And so that was actually my very first thing where I was like, wait a minute, like this isn't just fun and games. Like that people, I don't know why it struck me. It struck me like it was like, oh, like now that I've got this knowledge, I'm now part of a hidden warfare. I didn't know this kind of warfare was going on, but now I'm engaged in an ongoing war just by stepping into this magic. So yeah. Take that, Trent, says Serafina. Indeed.
That Trent is such a douchebag name too. That sounds exactly the way a Trent would act.
For sure. I'm sure we got some really great Trents in the audience right now. We're not talking about you. We're talking about the other Trent.
I am. No.
Yeah, that's fun.
Guilt by association.
But yeah, what about you, guy? I mean, and that's just one. I'm just kind of pulling out the one that pops to my mind. But what about you with psychic warfare? Have you found yourself under attack?
Multiple times. Nowadays, nothing really manages to land on me. There was one time last year where someone managed to get one malicious spell to stick, but I just sent it back in a similar way before it really had a chance to do any damage. In our line of work, it's very important to have like the biggest, nastiest, most violent protections you can because people will just find reasons to try to take you out.
Oh, for sure. No, Bill Duvendak actually gave me some great advice at one point that I was just finding myself under constant attack. I get on a call with him. We were just supposed to talk about whatever book he was releasing, whatever. But I get on the call with him, and he's like, "Dude, what's going on with your energy?" And I was like, constant attack." He goes, "Well, what's going on with your wards?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, what kind of wards do you got set up?" And I was like, "I don't really work with those. I haven't worked with wards since I was like 16 doing Wicca." And he's like, "Oh no, brother." He's like, "You need wards. You need to have objects. You need to have things that are in the perimeter around you that are going to catch the curses." Because he goes, otherwise they're just coming to you. Of course, you're always battling it. And so now I've got countless wards. I got shit buried in all over my yard. I got stuff hanging from trees. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I realized pretty early on, like I have to have wards up or some type of protection. That way I can keep, astral predators out and not get hurt by other practitioners. Most of my wards, and I have several as well, they're designed to keep malicious entities out, prevent negative spell work from hitting me, and just fuck up whoever tries to send it my way. One thing I found out, there's a Goetia demon named Crokel.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I've worked with Crokel.
If he,
I've only worked with him. Only worked with him for protection, though. For whatever reason, he's always been really, really helpful with protection by land. I called him for protection but I was going to fly over to Scotland, and he was like, "Call somebody else." I was like, "What?" He goes, "I don't go over water." I was like, "Oh, okay, all right."
I didn't know that. I know.
Yeah, I could imagine he would be fine if I would have gone by ship, but it was flying. It was the flying over water he did not care for, which makes sense because he does have a really reptilian presence to him.
Yeah, when it comes to taking flights, what I usually ask for ask Satanichia from the Gamorium Verum for safe travels. I think I forgot to do that when I visited you and had 7 consecutive delays on the way.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious. No, that is something though. Is whenever you're going somewhere to do magic, if you're going to go travel for a ritual or for an initiation, that's one of the old legends. Is that a lot of people don't make it to the initiation because they're the forces prevent them. And what I see is that And I'll do it even if it's like I don't even think it's going to be that big of a deal. I'm just meeting up with some buddies and we're going to do some rituals while we're together. You see all kinds of crazy things that you could use as an excuse to not show up. Like,
Mm.
oh, I had the car troubles. I had, the flight got delayed, whatever. And it's like, no, just keep pushing through, and get to where you're supposed to go, because that's part of the initiation. All of those blockages that come up, those are physical manifestations of energetic blockages. You need to resolve them, get past them, and you'll bypass the energetic blockage.
Morgan asked about making wards with Crokel. So what I do with him is not technically a ward. I've found that if he considers you worthy, Crokel, he'll basically protect you from malicious spell work and attack anyone who tries to put malicious spell work on you for literally one stick of Nag Champa incense a week.
Mm. Wow. Do you do anything? No. So while you're burning that, will you stay in the presence of the incense and meditate on him, or will you just burn it and go about your life, go make a sandwich, and go play hacky sack?
Um, Basically, I just light the offering and go about my day. Last year, there was one satanic chick who was acting friendly towards me, but she was really only doing that so she could feed information to a sexually predatory Satanist who was trying to kill me. Before I even knew she was doing that, something bizarre happened. Like, she told me she was 1 year sober. I was like, oh, good for you. Um, all of a sudden, her hamster dies and she just relapses hard as fuck, like drinking hard liquor out the bottle every night. I was like, wow. I mean, I know former addicts relapse and stuff, but that seemed really sudden. Then I come to find out, then someone hits me up and says,
Did,
hey,
did you say her hamster died? She relapsed over her hamster died?
yeah,
Okay. I didn't know if you said her grandma and I mistakenly heard hamster, but yeah, because that seems like she was looking for an excuse.
yeah. Um, but after she starts relapsing, um, someone hits me up and says, hey, there's someone around you who's acting like a spy. I'm like, well, who? And he says, it's this chick, and sends me a picture of her. Now, I hadn't told anyone about her yet. The only way to know that I was even interacting with her was to know her. Um, I'm like, okay, what type of information is she feeding to the sexual predator? And he like gave me a pretty vivid description of, what all information was being fed. I'm like, yep, this woman's trying to help the guy take me down. Now, I'm not a particularly manipulative person. I never viewed myself as being good at it or viewing it as worthwhile, but I'm thinking like a man once told me that the easiest lie to sell someone is the one they already want to believe.
Mm.
So she wants to believe that she's this uh Black Widow fucking man eater fooling and destroying men. And the sexual predator she was tight with wanted to believe that he had outsmarted me. He'll be the one to kill the great VK and brag about it forever. So I'm like, okay. So he wants to believe he's outsmarted me. She wants to believe that she's outsmarted me. Maybe I can trick her into unknowingly feeding him false information. And I did that for 2 weeks until I got bored. I used to
Yeah.
like I used to go out of my way to call him fat in text just so the screenshots would trigger his eating disorder.
Wow. Wow. But but you're onto something there, that there's this need for significance that we all have. We all want to be significant, and we want to be seen as significant, unique, special. And so when I'm working with a client through if I'm doing a ritual for them, or if I'm doing a consultation with them, that's it's most helpful if I get myself out of the way. If I get my ego out of the way, I'm not the expert. I'm just a genie in a bottle. You rubbed the lamp and here I am. You're the actual hero. You're the champion of the story. how can we make what's the secret weapon we need to give you to make you the champion you need to be. um, I feel like people who are grasping at other people, look, and I have been the most guilty of this, of grasping at everybody. Look at me, look at me, look at me. That is, you don't feel that great about yourself, and so you're telling me about this guy, and he's trying to manipulate you, and he's trying to get this, and it's like, what kind of severe weakness is going on within him to have set that all up, and then of course, a pedophile, that says it all.
Yeah.
That's as weak as a human could be. That's not even a human.
Yeah, according to one of my inside sources, he had narcissistic personality disorder and he was not doing anything to treat it. Because people with personality disorders, narcissists, sociopaths, they're fully capable of becoming decent people, but it often requires deliberate effort and sometimes specialized treatment. And there is no shame in going to a mental health professional to get that treatment. I go to therapy myself.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, yeah. We're cracking open our minds. I've got to go sit down with the professional sometimes and be like, and I had to I had to go through several that were not good before I found one. And he's a Mormon dude, so he doesn't have any investment in this at all. But I tell him my experiences, and he listens and helps me work through them. So that can be helpful. But Naomi, is this Naomi? No, Nyangzi Wang says, "Hey, yay. I was going to ask if working with the 4 dark ones you stated in the evocation course right on your first day is a good idea." Well, so let's expand that question a bit and say, like, should you dive in head first and start working with the heaviest of the heavy right away, or should you start small and work your way up? I mean, I think you should take it at whatever feels good for you. If you feel a shock of it's too much for you, maybe hold off, but also let yourself be challenged. But I don't know, like to be honest, this is me talking. I've been doing this for most of my life, so it's easy for me to say just jump in head first. There could be real consequences to jumping into magic head first. These are very real. These are very real forces you're putting yourself into connection with. So I don't know. What do you think? If somebody is just barely getting started in magic, should they start slow or should they just dive in?
Um, I say the first thing you need to do is make some basic preparations. Get your chakras open, learn 1 or 2 divination methods, learn to banish negative energy and ward your place, like we were talking about. Once you've got all that out of the way, I think you're ready to start summoning demons. Now, I can't speak to the 4 dark ones because I haven't seen that course, but in Qliphothic Kabbalah, there's these 22 archdemons who govern the pathways between the Qliphothic spheres, the tunnels of Set, as those paths are called. Those demons are phenomenal for beginners. Um, Specifically, Gargophius, Niantiel, and Thantafaxath. Those I would highly recommend to beginners. Um, you don't have to initiate through the Qliphoth to summon those demons, to be clear. I summoned them long before I started doing Qliphothic initiation. You can call them up the same way you would demons from the Goetia, Grimorium Verum, or Ducante hierarchy. But that's how I would recommend starting.
Yeah, no, that's great. And your advice about starting with opening up your chakras, doing some basic energy work is that there are some underlying skills that if you don't know how to communicate with spirits, you could call all the dark ones you want, and it's going to be meaningless to you because you're not in contact with what you're actually summoning. So there could be a value to starting, just tinkering with things until you get the capabilities that you feel it's good. But then other people are saying, somebody, I can't remember who said this, but somebody said that they started with Satan, and a lot of people will start with Satan or Azazel or these big ones, and that they do great. Yeah, no, that's all, because it is like an umbrella force that you can tap into. And then somebody asked about Azazel. Say something about Azazel. Yeah, so Azazel, the invocation, the conjuration that I've used for Azazel for a while now is just his name broken into 3 parts. Azazel. Oz, first Oz, A-Z. 2 Oz, A-Z, A-Z. That's the dragon. And so it's a double dragon, a double-headed dragon, maybe a double dragon. Dragon. El is God, dragon god, the god of dragons, or the dragon god. And Azazel is that's a name for a very, very, very ancient force. Um, the the impression I've got about Azazel is that he is highly devoted to this planet and to our species. Um, where what I get the impression that there are other beings like him that don't care about us and they're off doing their own thing. But he has a very vested interest in us. He has always been invested in our evolution. I asked him why he teaches us the things he does, why he cares if we evolve. And he says that as we evolve, he evolves. And we're evolving. We're trying to reach the pinnacle and we're trying to become more like them. They're trying to become more like us. And someday those crossroads are going to meet and we're going to become the same species, is what Azazel tells me.
So Custard the Dragon asked an important question. Where can we find EA Co-Wedding's content now?
Go over to Odyssey, odyssey.com/@EA right as soon as I got off of YouTube, I took my whole YouTube library, and because I save everything and on multiple different drives and stuff. And so I took my entire library, put it over on Odyssey, and I upload there constantly. I'm also over on TikTok, same thing, tiktok.com/@EA Co-Wedding. And then the website Become a Living God is always still up. That's our flagship. That's through all of the various rough times, all of the rough times that we've had at Become a Living God. We've had multiple times of asking, like, should we shut the website down? And I'm glad we didn't, for a million different reasons. It's all the stuff. You can find all my books, video courses, everything there. And that's all. As far as I've talked to Timothy, and I'm like, dude, like if one of us dies, the other one needs to keep this going. So we're invested in this just continuing for the rest of our lives.
So you do, to my understanding, weekly live streams on TikTok. When are those?
Yeah. Every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I get on there and just start my week out with you. I spend about an hour or 2 hours just chatting, taking questions from the chat. On Wednesdays on my Odyssey channel, I also do a live chat every week, every Wednesday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. But on my Odyssey, we've got a smaller group of people over there. It's a much smaller platform. So it's just a small group of us kind of have a more intimate conversation. And I usually prepare a lesson every week that I'll bring out. I'll read from one of my books or something else that I happen to be studying and kind of have a bit of a lesson plan prepared every Wednesday. So both of those are, completely free to join, obviously TikTok and then Odyssey as well. So join me on either of those.
Yeah, definitely make sure you follow him on TikTok and check out the book Noctulius on becomealiving.god.com. I think I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, it's just been awesome chatting with you. I looked at the clock and we've been going over an hour and it didn't even feel like it. So thank you again for having me on your channel. This has been an awesome chat, and thanks to everybody for coming and taking part in it.
Thanks for coming, man.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.